Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your girl, Dr. Rhonda M. Lawson, and I am back with a new episode. And I like to call this my spooky episode because I'm going to be talking with two amazing speculative fiction slash horror authors. And these ladies are super serious about their craft. So we're going to have some fun tonight. And at the same time, we're going to learn a little bit about speculative fiction, what goes into writing horror, because you have to describe things and make people kind of nervous, make people look over their shoulder even though all they're doing is reading a book. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce you to my girl. Her first name is Rhonda too, so she knows she's got to be a special person. So Miss Rhonda Jackson Garcia, even though it says RJ Joseph on the screen. So, but we're going by Rhonda tonight, though, right?
Yes.
Well, thank you for joining me tonight.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. I always like when we do like double trouble Rhondas. That's always
yes. So, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you decided to get into the horror genre.
I don't know that I ever had a choice. I'm a real big believer in those natural gifts, things that happen. You're placed in places where you're supposed to be. I've always had a really, really dark nature. So horror was a thing that called to me. And I realized that I always had an empathy for the monsters, and I put that in quote air quotes because it's not always the way that it seems, right?
Right.
Right. And so I've always had this proclivity towards the darkness, interested in what's in the dark. I've always been fascinated by the fact that more monstrosity is actually shown in the light than in the dark, right?
That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, like we're always afraid of the things that are out that we can't see, that are hidden, but there's lots of things to be frightened of that are right in the bright sunny day. Sometimes there's even spotlights. And so, I like to kind of talk about those things as well. So I've always been a horror fan. I've always dabbled in the stories. I haven't always been comfortable doing so openly though. So it wasn't until I started out writing romance because it was kind of more acceptable for a little Black Southern girl, right? And yeah, I mean, and I loved it. I still dabble in romance, but the darkness was always calling. And so when I went into my MFA program as a romance writer, I came out as a much better romance writer, but also a much better horror writer. So now I'm writing.
That's interesting that you were studying
Yes.
being a romance writer, and that somehow morphed into horror.
Yeah, well, so the thing is, I went to Seton Hill University to a low residency MFA program, and they have, well, of course, I'm very biased, right? But they have what I feel like is like the top genre writing MFA program here in the country. And I say that because I looked at a few schools, and this is not to knock any of the other schools. I'm sure they're amazing. But the thing that really struck me about Seton Hill was that they focused on popular fiction. And so a lot of other programs kind of don't let you write genre fiction. You have to write literary fiction. And so knowing that I wanted to write romance as it is, I thought that this would be the best program for me. What I didn't count on was meeting top horror writers and other horror writing colleagues who I would actually fall in with instead, who would ask me almost every residency, they go, "Are you sure you're not a horror writer?" And I hadn't told any of them that I'd already published a couple of horror short stories and stuff, right? And so by the time I figured out that I could work with my mentors on my actual thesis, which was a romance story, but I could be critique in a critique group and actually bring to our workshops my horror stuff, I did that and they allowed me to. So I
Okay.
was getting my romance writing and my horror writing critique, but also networking with romance writers and horror writers for
You
the
kind of found yourself in the right place at the right time, it sounds
this,
like.
this, yeah. Well, this is exactly what happened. And then as soon as I graduated, I went to one of the horror cons and I met a Black woman horror scholar who
Okay.
had done her monograph and gotten her PhD in Black women's horror studies, right? This was what her monograph talked about. And so, yeah, it's exactly like you said. I was at the right place at the right time. Once I found that that was a thing I could do, I could be a horror scholar. I could focus on the intersections of race and gender in horror because I met her. I just kind of found that that is my natural space. So here I am.
Well, now what now I know you met these people and then you started to find your niche, so to speak, in the horror genre, but when did you decide, okay, I think I'm going to make a go of this and actually start writing some full-length books?
So I'm mostly a short story writer.
Okay.
This is, I mean, I grew up in the 80s. And so, you know, I'm very influenced by like, I have to tell people, remind them reruns of the Twilight Zone. I was not there when they were first run. You know, I mean, you know, I'm a seasoned woman, but I was not there for those first runs. I was there though for like the reruns and then the reruns of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, The Outer Limits. I grew up watching like Tales from the Crypt, all these
Mhm.
anthology style shows and reading comic
Yes.
books. And so my horror writing brain works that way best. So I do write longer works, but where I think I really shine is in these short stories. And so once I got like quite a few of them together, they were just sitting around and I was talking to a writing colleague of mine. He's like, "So what are you working on?" And I go, "Oh, well, I think I might try to shop around a short story collection." And he was like, "Oh, you should do that." And so then he held me accountable. He would like jump into my DMs and be like, "Hey, so what's going on with that collection?
You
Hey,
know,
what's..."
it is always good when you have an accountability partner. I'll tell you that.
Yes. Oh, yes, yes, yes. So I have, I mean, even though my collection is already published, right? Like I have
Mhm.
enough short stories for two more collections already because
Oh,
I write a lot of short stories. So
right.
yeah, I'm just waiting. Look, I don't know what I'm waiting for at this point, right? You know, but I mean, because you got to let things bake a little bit. You got to make sure
Yeah.
that they're thematically similar. But I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be shopping that around before the year ends. So
Well, what I'm hearing is that it's an exercise in patience. Just because you have these stories written does not mean that they're ready to go out into the world. And I think a lot of times, as new authors, we get so excited
mhm.
about having a story, and we're like, "Okay, my story's done. I just hit the end. It's time to get published." But it sounds like sometimes it's all about timing.
Yeah.
It's about what's going on at the time. How
Yes.
close is it to your last project? Um,
Yes.
or have
Yes.
you even built your audience yet?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you're exactly right. A lot of the stories in my collections are reprints, so they have been published before. So it's not necessarily that I don't think they're ready to stand on their own, but to
Mhm.
stand together. See, a
Right.
collection is a different kind of a thing. It has to be the tone and the vibe has to be consistent throughout. Your title has to match the vibe. Everything kind of has to match all together. And so, yeah, and the timing, you have to think about the projects. I do realize that short story collections are a lot like anthologies and they are a sort of an acquired taste. People
Yeah.
usually will
Some
get
people
to
want to
know.
read all the way through. Yeah.
Right, right. And so I do realize that my next project should be novel or novella length. And so that's another reason why I've been kind of just sitting, letting the collections marinate, because I do realize that I need to have a longer project out there first, and then maybe kind of backdoor that with another collection. I'd at least like to try it.
Okay. Now, so let's talk a bit about Hell Hath No Sorrow, like a woman haunted. First of all, that's a long title, but it's a title that kind of makes you stop and think for a second. And now it's not even been a year since that book has been released.
Yeah. So it came out and I'm so excited about it. It has actually been nominated for like the 2 top horror writing awards
Awesome.
for 2023. Yeah, it was a Bram
Yes.
Stoker Award nominee, and it was also a Shirley Jackson Award nominee. So I am beyond tickled. I mean, it didn't win either one, but just to be nominated, I know
Yeah,
it's really
just to be
cliche.
nominated, that's something special.
To be nominated with a debut collection, oh, come
Yes.
on. I mean, forget about it. In my mind, that was the win. It was just the win that people are reading and nominating the books. I'm really, really proud of that, and I'm really excited that people are wanting to read these stories. And the title is, again, with the collection, the title has to match what the collection is about, and so that is the overarching theme for those stories. These are haunted
Right.
women. Sometimes they're the monsters. Sometimes they're the prey, but at all times these are Black women who are being haunted.
That is scary. So let's talk a little bit more about it. So these are different, each story is about a different woman who's being haunted. And what are they being
Yes.
haunted by?
Yeah, well, it depends. So, like for instance, the very first story in there is a historical horror story, and this is about a biracial Black woman who lived in 1800s New Orleans, who
Mm,
is having to, because of the society at that time, she's having to go and become sort of the unofficial wife to a white man with money. This is one of the only ways that Black women at that time could own
right.
property, and so she is like, so her father and her mother are kind of sort of, shopping her around, for lack of a better term. They're kind of introducing her into society.
Yeah,
And
shopping her around, basically.
yeah. And so the man who wants to take her to wife is not the one that she actually planned on, but she finds out that he's actually something other than what he presents as, and what he wants her for is to basically to breed her to make more of him, more of
Wow.
what he is. And so what she's haunted by is these societal restrictions that kind of offered her the only way out of freedom, or the only way to build wealth, was to tether herself to who essentially turned out to be a monster. And so this is what
Mhm.
she's haunted by, is those constrictions that made it necessary that she enter into such a marriage in the first place.
Wow. So do all of your stories have kind of a historic fiction type theme to them?
They don't. So I do write contemporary fiction also. But again, that's one of those things where you have to understand your voice and understand where you really shine. And so when
Mhm.
I went into the MFA program, I decided that I was going to be a historical romance writer, like not like Queen Beverly Jenkins, because there's nobody like her. But I thought, well, maybe I could try that. I always wanted to write historical fiction. It's my very favorite thing to read. But my historical romance writing voice, it always turned very dark. And so I'm finding that where I really shine and where I really get a lot of accolades is in my historical horror writing.
Oh,
And so, yeah,
yes.
so I do
Because
write
it's something
contemporary fiction.
different.
Yeah, oh,
It,
sure. Well, it's,
and it makes total sense because when we think about historic fiction, we do start to think about ghosts, and sometimes it can be a little
yeah,
scary. There are a
yeah,
lot of unanswered questions. So I mean, it
yeah.
totally makes sense.
Well, it absolutely makes sense, especially seeing as how there's not a broad spectrum of Black historical horror anyway.
Yes.
Most, so I'm thinking, I'm like, I want to tell those stories. I want to talk to, I want to hear from those women who lived in these times, like, because
Mhm.
the Black experience is so full of spirituality. It's so full of stories that we've never gotten a chance to hear. So I'm excited to be able to tell those stories through that lens. That's really important to me.
Oh, absolutely. Now, I'm sure you're going to have this book with you in Texas when I see you next week, right?
Oh, yes, I will absolutely have that pretty girl there. We will
So, for
be
those of
front
you who are
and
wondering what we're
center.
talking about, for
Yes.
those of you who are wondering what we're talking about, Rhonda is going to be one of the authors at the National Black Book Festival in Houston, Texas. It's going to start actually on Thursday. That's where we're going to have the dinner that everybody gets to network and get to know each other. And then Friday will be the book fest. Friday and Saturday will be the book festival. It's going to be probably 100 authors. No, probably about it. There are going to be 100 authors there. It's going to be hosted by what used to be called Kush City. But now she is totally rebranded because the brick and mortar store isn't there anymore, but she has a very huge online presence. I'm talking about Miss Gwen Richardson, who I co-host Black Authors Matter TV with every Tuesday. And I'm really, really, really looking forward to getting out there because for what, the fourth or fifth straight year, I'm the official literary correspondent. So I will be interviewing authors and live streaming from the event for the entire weekend. And I just can't wait to see Miss Rhonda face to face. So we can talk about this book because I might have to be reading some of these scary stories on the way back home on the airplane. And I need my book signed.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I got you.
Now, you have some other places where you're going to be. You have actually quite a few appearances besides the National Black Book Festival.
Yeah, so this past weekend, I was in Atlanta at Multiverse Convention. It was a whole lot of fun. So there, I usually put on my academic hat as the academic track director. And so it was a ton of fun. This coming weekend, I'll be at the National Black Book Festival. The weekend after that, I'll be in Richmond, Virginia at the Halloween Hangover 2. This Barnes & Noble at Libby Place there in Richmond is fantastic. They have this huge, elaborate horror section, which we don't see a lot when we go into bookstores, right? They don't have a focus, but this Tiffany and James, those managers, they love horror. They show that they love horror, and so they hosted this event last year. And when I say it was a complete blast, it was like a convention without being a convention, and there were books everywhere.
So all of the authors are horror authors who are part of the secret?
Yes, all the authors are horror authors, and I'm super excited because I am one of the guests of honor this year.
Okay.
Yes. Oh my God.
On the show.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, and the other two guests of honor are writers who I love very, very much. And so it's almost like it's sort of like a party with your friends, but there are books too. And that's like the very best party.
Of course. Man, that sounds like so much fun. Now, where do you actually live though?
I live in Pearland, Texas. So right outside of Houston.
Okay. Because I'm about to say Atlanta, Houston, Richmond. You're doing a lot of traveling, ma'am.
Yeah, well, see, October is not only spooky month, but it's also Black speculative fiction month.
Yes, I heard
that. Yeah. So October is always my busy season. Like I tell people, I can go all year, just go to a couple of other cons, but like in October, I am booked and loaded the whole month, which is exciting. I'm just glad that people want to engage, and talk about horror at all. So I'm just glad people are reading it.
That's awesome. Well, and you know what? You're right. My month where I'm busy is February for Black History Month. But being a speculative fiction horror author, this is your month and you better make the best of it.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so now I know you mentioned earlier that you're kind of timing and you're kind of waiting, but when can we expect a new project from Miss? Well, now let's go back before you answer that question. We know you as Rhonda Jackson Garcia, but your pen name is RJ Joseph. Do you write under both names?
I do write under both names. So the thing is, when I started writing horror, it was after romance. So there's a couple of reasons why I write under RJ Joseph for horror. When I started writing romance, I was writing under Rhonda Jackson and Rhonda Jackson Joseph. And so once I got to the horror, I was like, wait, I don't want my romance readers to try to read this stuff. It's totally different. They are not going to get what they came for, right? So, and then also, though, I've been writing for a really long time. So when I started, it was like the 90s. It was this whole thing about not a ton of women in horror. I never wanted anybody to know, first off, that I was a woman. I wanted them to be grabbed by my writing. So I decided I'd write under my initials. So then I've since been remarried. And once I started writing academically, I realized that I need another pen name. So that I usually write under Jackson Garcia for the academia. So I'm just the lady with all the names.
She said, give me all the names. I have
I am. I'm every woman. Shaka Khan, I am.
I am not mad at you. So now, is your next project going to be under Jackson or Joseph?
Well, the next project is going to be under
Garcia, I should say.
Yeah, well, it's going to be under RJ Joseph. So I have a couple of short stories coming out in anthologies. I think this one actually by Midnight and Indigo. This is a website and publication that publishes fiction and nonfiction by Black women. And so I have a short story in their speculative fiction issue, which is a print book. So that's coming out. If it's not already out, it might actually already be released. So I have a short story in there. I also have a nice, warm family holiday story in a horror anthology. Yeah, but it's really not.
Horror. No wonder you did that. It's going to be a horror holiday story.
It is going to be a horror holiday story. Yes. And that is coming out early next month with the Seventh Terrace. So because I'm a short story writer, the good thing is I do have stuff out all the time. And there's a couple of things in the fire that I can't quite announce just yet. But yeah, I have stories coming out next few months, across the months. That's one of my favorite things about writing in short medium, is that I can always have an essay or a short story coming out pretty regularly, kind of staying fresh.
Okay, so when can we expect this, ma'am?
Yeah, so the one short story, I really think that might have released this month in Midnight and Indigo. And then next month is the anthology, the holiday one called Solstice in Purgatory. And so that's going to release like the first week in November.
I know one thing, you really know how to create a title.
Yeah, I can't take credit for that one. Our editors created that one, but I was like, yeah, I do happen to be pretty lucky when titles come. My biggest obstacle sometimes is creating a work that actually lives up to the fabulous title, right?
I'm not mad at you. I think it's actually pretty cool myself. I mean, because the thing is, there are a couple of things that will stop a reader even before I know a lot of people say, get to the back of the book, make sure that synopsis on the back of the book is really good and attention getting. But before people even get to the back of the book, they're going to see your book cover and they're going to see your title. Yep. So when you have a title that makes people say, oh, what's this? And they actually really pick up the book so they can find out more about it, you're doing a good thing. You're doing your job.
Exactly. Oh, as a reader, that's exactly what I look at. I look at the title because I think, oh my gosh, that's intriguing. Or I think that's not so intriguing.
Right. Oh, that's not so intriguing. I don't know about that. Well, I think it's pretty cool. And I want to congratulate you. I know we're starting to run out of time. But I really want to congratulate you on all you're doing. How many books do you have out right now?
Well, I have works in, oh gosh, I stopped counting. So yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of writing short things and writing and submitting like it in magazines and book chapters and anthologies, is that there's always something, so it makes it look like I'm much more prolific than I really am. But then I think about it and I go, it's no easy feat. I have to start claiming that it's hard work to write these stories. They just happen to be short, so they can be everywhere all at the same time.
Well, the thing about writing a short story, though, is that you have to get to the point quickly, but you still have to make it feel like a full
Yeah,
story. First, the reader should still be satisfied by the time they get to
absolutely.
the end of the story.
Yeah, it is a very specific set of skills.
Yeah.
And so I learned early on to lean into that, like to not try to push it until I was ready. But I knew that I was ready to start writing longer stuff when people would review the stories and go, I wish there were more. I
Mm,
wanted more. Like, yes, it was complete, but I wanted more. And I thought, okay,
yeah.
that's my sign that I have to stretch my wings. It's time to get to be doing something a little bit different. I mean, and it's helpful. So writing novellas and screenplays, it helps. It really helps to keep the writing muscles good. It's just different writing muscles.
Well, good way to look at it. Good way
Yeah.
to look at it. And I like it because you have to have that balance. You know, you want to you want to
Yes.
describe, you want to set the scene, but you don't want to spend 2, 3, 4 pages setting the scene because you're running out of
Exactly.
time. You have a word count that you have to stick with. And now,
Yep.
what would your word count be? Do you have a
Um,
target?
I tend I tend to do really well around 3,500 words. I
Okay.
can
Oh,
write
wow.
shorter. Yeah, I can write shorter and I can write longer, but the stories that really get into the richness of character usually hit around 3,500, 4,000 words for me. That's where I
Wow.
really sparkle. Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. Because 3,500 words, there are some writers who are going to say that's too many words, and then there are going to be some that say, "Oh, that's not enough for me to do what I have to do." You know,
Right.
so that's a
Yes,
sweet
yes.
spot.
Yes, we have to embrace our gifts.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
so that happens to be one of mine.
Well, I want to thank you, Rhonda, for being on the show. And I'm going to put the um your link in the chat because there may
Okay.
be some people out there who need to pick up these books.
Yes,
And
absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you. I
so
love what you do.
thank you so much. I love talking to authors like you, and I really appreciate the love that you put into your craft
Thank
because
you.
what it does is it shows that we can move in excellence and still be true to what we do. So I
Yes.
want to thank you for showing how we can still be true to our craft, even if it's not something, it's not like that popular, everybody was going toward street fiction for a little while,
Uh-huh.
or they were going toward erotica. You said no. My sweet spot is horror. I'm going to move
Yes.
with excellence in horror, and that's what
Yes.
it's all about.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's about embracing it, leaning in, and making sure that we're giving the readers what they want to have.
Absolutely. Well, once again, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'm looking forward to seeing you at the National Black Book Festival. And if
Yes.
there's any way that we can support you from here on out, all you have to do is just say the word.
Okay, I will. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You have a great one.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye. All right.
Bye.
So, y'all, that was Rhonda Jackson Garcia, also known as RJ Joseph. And she is going to be at the National Black Book Festival in Houston on this coming weekend. So if you were in the Houston area, we want to make sure that you're there. Now, before I bring the next guest in, I want to remind you guys that the Black History Month Literary Weekend is coming in February. And if you haven't seen the save the date, here it is. So that is the Black History Month Literary Weekend, February 22nd through the 24th, right here in the DMV, and we want to see you there. So stay tuned because more information is following. I still have to let you guys know about the fashion show. I still have to let you guys know about the 10 authors who are going to be featured during this event. I have to tell you about all of the stops that we're going to be making around the DMV. So there's a lot to come. We haven't even talked about the band. There's so much going on. So guys, stay tuned. But in the meantime, I want to introduce you to my next guest, Miss L. Marie Wood. I've got to bow down to this lady because she is doing so much. And look at us having almost the same kind of background. But she is doing so much. She is the founder of I think it's called the Speculative Academy, the Speculative Fiction Academy. Did I say that correct? Okay, awesome. She is a 50-time author. Is that right? Uh-oh. I can't hear your sound. Something's going on. No, it's like squeaky like. Yeah, okay, she said she's gonna come back. Okay, she's gonna log off and come back. But while we're waiting, I do also want to let you know about one other project that we have going on. So here, as you know, at Meet the World Image Solutions, we are always trying to support small business owners and authors, and we have a huge shopping holiday coming up called Black Friday, and I'm sure you guys have heard of it. So there are so many small businesses who are trying to put together their Black Friday deals. They're trying to get attention, and what I want to do is put all of those awesome deals, small business deals, into the Black Friday Shoppers Guide. So what this is going to do is help you to save money on ads. I'll be running those ads for you. It's going to help you to reach new customers. It's going to help you to increase brand awareness. And what I'm going to do is take all of those deals, put them into this guide, and I'm going to run those specials throughout the country. You are going to get seen by over 10,000 people, and we want you to be a part of this. So if you want more information on the Black Friday Shoppers Guide and how you can get your Black Friday deal into this guide, then make sure that you message me on Facebook or Instagram, and I will get you some more information on that. But now Miss L. Marie Wood is back. Let's see if her sound is working.
I hope it works. Is this better?
Yes, that's much better. I don't know what was going on. You were like,
oh my gosh. We never would have finished the interview like that.
No, we couldn't even get started. But thank you so much for joining me tonight. And it was kind of last minute. I had to one of my authors just didn't work out, but I was like, I don't want to just invite anybody. I want another horror fiction author to be a part of this show tonight. So I want to thank you for agreeing to be on the show. And I'm just going to ask you to just tell me a little bit about yourself. Oh, look, Mark Borstroy. They had you on.
Oh my goodness. We should figure out a way to use that for something, but it wouldn't have worked for this.
See, you know what? You gotta love the people who we have watched the show. We have a really cool audience, but unfortunately, I don't know if you heard, or if you saw it in the email that some bad people decided to take over my old Facebook account. So I'm starting all over again.
Oh no,
girl!
I'm sorry to hear that. No, I didn't. Yeah, that's a shame. That's a shame.
Yeah. So, but it's okay because, this is going to be a challenge. I'm just going to have to regrow my platform. We're going to start from the bottom and then we're going to be here. But that's why I said I want to thank you for being a part of the show. So if you can tell the audience a bit about yourself and then tell us about the Speculative Fiction Academy, what's that's all about.
Okay, sure. Well, I'm a psychological horror author. I should be prepared for that, huh? 16 books, not 50, 16. I think you said 50 time off. I'm like, no, I don't know about that, but that would be great. But just about 16 books, but 200 short stories. So
yeah. Okay.
I don't know. I write it all: screenplays, novellas, novels,
Yes.
poetry now. I guess I've written poetry for quite a while, but I guess I'm leaning into it a little bit more now.
Mm.
And I love it. I've been doing it for quite a long time. So it's just a lot of fun. Um, let's see what else about me. Well, I guess I am the new vice president of the Horror Writers Association,
Oh.
which is pretty cool. It's pretty exciting. And I am the founder of the Speculative Fiction Academy. The Speculative Fiction Academy is the online equivalent to the MFA program that I really wish I had been able to take. It
Oh,
teaches,
wow.
yeah, it teaches not only genre fiction and not only, the program I was able to graduate from, which was stellar, was a speculative fiction program, which if any of you are trying to get your advanced degree in creative writing, that's few and far between. You can't, just really
Yes.
can't find that. And I found one and I was able to graduate with that. But it was still sort of speculative fiction light, if you will. And it's my academy dives into the how-tos of genre. Each genre, we talk about fantasy, we talk about, of course, horror, science fiction, we talk about romance, we talk about thriller and mystery, because from a psychological horror perspective, they are part and parcel of what, we kind of ride the cusp of all the suspense genres, which is beautiful. But we also then do, how to podcast, how to, write screenplays, how to write horror screenplays. That's a different process, and not entirely, but definitely a different focus from just writing, your standard contemporary
Mhm.
screenplays. How to, oh my goodness, I mean, what's 101, screenwriting 101.
Yeah.
Really, really just robust. And then we have business classes as well for writers. So it's just a really robust look at being a writer and an approach to help a person who wants to do this for a career. So
Now,
I'm
when
very
you
excited
say
to be able to present it.
it sounds really, really interesting, but it also sounds like something that somebody who may not necessarily be into speculative fiction or necessarily be a horror author can still get something out of this.
Oh, sure. Well, like I said, we have fantasy and science fiction tracks as well. So horror is just one leg of it. Podcasting is it's across all spectrums. That's not specific to horror or any genres, at all. The screenwriting, especially the 101 course and we have a 102 course coming up, that's not specific to horror fiction at all. We do have a horror writing screenplay class, but that's just one way, and it's really talking about building, tension and all of
Mhm.
that, the themes that we need to touch upon when we're writing horror fiction screenplays. But it is a place for people who just want to write, to be able to learn how to do so and get a little bit of a different take on the craft and the actual career than
Right,
what we
right.
might very well get from, when we're taking academic courses in a university.
Wow. And so I guess you can basically take this anywhere. There's certain times a year that the academy is open, or can you join anytime?
Anytime, anytime.
Wow.
They're self-led. Every now and then we'll have a live class, we'll meet online, but the courses are self-led, because when I went back for my MFA, and especially when I went back for my doctorate, it was so much easier to do that work at 3 o'clock in the morning. There's life, right? And I was working a day job and I'm an author. So I had things I had to do. So coursework, I couldn't take the time out to go sit in a classroom
Yes.
physically. I couldn't take the time out to have to even do very much of the interaction online, where it would be camera led and just synchronously run. I needed something that would allow me to work at my own pace, and so I found that benefit, and I've kept that train of thought all the way through creating the academy.
Wow. So congratulations first of all for doing that, because there are a lot of people out there who want to learn to be better writers, and maybe they don't want to sit in a workshop all day. They don't have time to do that.
Mhm.
Because I know when I was going to school, I preferred my online classes, because there were times where I just couldn't sleep and I got up at 2 o'clock in the morning and did my homework, or
Exactly.
went to my classroom. And you can't exactly do that when you are going to a face-to-face class. So this is a great opportunity for people, and it sounds like something that is affordable at the same time.
It is, and that's the beauty of it, because I mean, it's these are academy classes taught by people who are legitimately working at the moment in the craft. So any of the screenwriting classes are taught by filmmakers. You know, we've got classes that are taught by also not only horror authors or sci-fi authors, but they're professors at the same time.
Yes.
You know, so we're dealing with people who are bringing their craft to the table and bringing their knowledge to the table, but we're trying to make it affordable because it needs to be accessible. So we want to share our knowledge. I mean, I guess I've been writing for, oh boy, I mean, I'd say 45 years. That's probably right, because I did start when I was 5. Okay, now everyone knows exactly how old I am. There you go. Right? Let me add this up right on camera. Sure. So, but I mean, it's I've been doing it that long. You know, I've been publishing since the late 90s. I've been around the block quite a bit, quite a few times indeed. And so you learn a few things. You know, pass fail, you learn a few things. And I loved it. I wanted to share that knowledge. When I went to school, I wanted to get that knowledge from people. And I found that my favorite classes and the instructors that I've maintained relationships with were people who could teach me something, you know, because they were working in the genre or in the craft. Forget just the genre. One of my favorite instructors was a romance writer, and I write horror. We're not completely away from each other, but it's not quite the same thing. So, you know, it just, we want to make sure that it's accessible to people who want to learn.
Awesome. Yeah, that's one of the things I do. And I'm really enjoying this conversation because that's one of the things that I do is I approach the literary industry from an educational standpoint. I want to help people who want to become better writers, because it's one thing to write a book. I mean, let's face it, anybody can write a book, but it takes a lot of dedication to write that book well, to be able to craft that story so somebody it's going to resonate with whomever that reader is. Now, with speculative fiction, and in your case, psychological fiction, that is a totally different level, because you're not just creating, you're not just describing, but you have to do it in a way so somebody gets that eerie feeling right here on the back of their neck. Somebody makes a sound and they get scared and drop the book. Stop doing that, you know. So,
those are the moments I live for. So
yes. What is that secret sauce in writing that type of description that will make people just get nervous just reading the book?
Mm-hmm. For me, I love when people read the book and they're doing okay. They're fine till night falls, till it's time for bed. Then they're not so fine. Then the words that I put on that page come up and scare them. And I can't tell you, I'm just being just full transparency here. I love to get emails from people or comments on Facebook or wherever telling me that they couldn't sleep or that they were afraid to put their feet down because of what I might have described.
I'm gonna have to think twice about reading your book. I need to go to sleep at night.
Well, I will tell you, you know, we write as horror authors, at least from my perspective, we write from the space of what frightens me, right? And if it doesn't scare me at all, I don't really feel like it's going to scare anybody else. That's wrong or right. That's just how I approach it. And so there was a moment when I wrote something and it was very late and the house was quiet. And I mean, just the wee hours of the morning. And everyone else went to bed. So the lights were off everywhere else in the house except my office. And I'm just writing along, doing whatever. And I get to this scene and it's scary. And I know I can tell it's scary. It's good. I'm excited about it. And I finished it and I saved it. And I went to turn the laptop off. And I just stopped for a second because I'm like, I don't think I can leave. I don't think I can get up. You know, it was great, but at the same time, I wanted to go to bed, you know, so it was kind of like, you wrote something that terrified you enough that you can't leave your desk. That's some good stuff.
Now, when you scared yourself, come on now.
Right. And I'm like, what do I do? Sleep in here? And you feel to yourself like, that's ridiculous. You're the one who came up with it. It shouldn't be that bad. But it was. And I mean, it was like, leave the light on and run to the hallway and turn the light on, then come back to cut the light off, go back where the light is. It was ridiculous. It took me forever to get up the stairs, but that scene impacts other people as well. And I'm like, well, good, at least it worked.
Well, I mean, if you have to, you're playing on the person's imagination. So you have to be able to describe that well. You have to be able to, and it's not just about the sense of vision, you have to play into all of those senses. Make your reader hear the same thing that your character hears.
Right.
Make them feel the same thing that your character feels. So you're doing a lot of showing and not just telling.
Exactly. With reading, for me, writing any piece, short story, novel, novella, it's a partnership between the author and the reader. Okay, so my job is to provide you with something that can spark imagination within you, the reader.
Yes.
If I can't give you the visual, if you can't glean what I'm coming up with and add something to it on the way out the door. Like if I give you a monster, if it's generic and you feel like, oh, I've already seen this, there's nothing to add to it, there's no little, anything, then you're going to be bored. But from my perspective, my job is to make sure that you will subconsciously add something to that monster and be terrified by both the thing you added and the story that I told you. Because what I find interesting is this: when Along Came a Spider, James Patterson book, then movie. James Patterson wrote the character. It's Alex Cross, right? And Alex Cross is a I mean, I don't want to call him middle aged. I mean, 40 is like, that's like not it's a 40-year-old person, but I think at the time he might have been late 30s, early 40s. I wanted to even say mid to late 30s to be honest, because this book's relatively old, but youngish detective, fit, moving around. And then we were casted with Morgan Freeman. Well, if you had but he was, not to say that he's not spry, but I think he was in his late 60s, early 70s when he was casted in the role. Your imagination, because of the description of James Patterson's Alex Cross, was hindered by this mindset. You see him when Morgan Freeman was cast in the role. Had he not been such a strong actor, I don't know if we would have accepted it, because that's not what we saw. But from my perspective, I have to dance and straddle that line where I'm going to tell you what this person looks like or seems like or expresses themselves like, but gives you the opportunity to play with haircut, gives you the chance to play with skin tone, play with, I don't know, shape of nose, whatever. If it's important to the story, I'll tell you. But if it's not, I want you to color in the lines too. And in that way, we can approach the story together.
I actually like that, because sometimes I think that we as writers can over describe, and we're describing things that really have no bearing on the story, and we're just weighing the story down.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're told to do that, right? I mean, that's when there are a lot of things they used to tell us to do. And some of that's called purple prose. You just can't just talk all day long about, it can't just be this exorbitant description. That in and of itself is a whole nother type of writing. It's literary fiction that does all of this in-depth detail and focus on things that are not necessarily moving the story forward. But again, we're contemporary fiction, and when we talk about genre predominantly, and our goal is to move the story along based upon plot. So something has to be happening for us to to get to it. That doesn't mean you ignore the shade of orange on the wall, but you don't take a page and a half to describe the shade of orange. There's a good reason for it,
Right.
But we're told to do that. We are told to, if we can't describe it, then we haven't done a good job and we shouldn't use it at all. That has somehow translated into overdoing it in some cases.
Good point. Good point. So now I see that you are going to be in Richmond, Virginia, along with our last guest, Miss Rhonda.
Yes.
So I might have to drive over to Richmond, because I'm not that far from y'all. It's only about 3 hours.
Oh, really? That would be great.
Yeah, I live in the DMV. So that's why I'm saying I'm going to have to go see what y'all talking about over there.
Halloween Hangovers is really interesting. It's not a convention, but it has panels, right? It's not just book selling, because it has panels. So it's a really nice interaction, but it's in a Barnes and Noble in Libby Place. And you get the chance to be up close and personal with a really nice handful of authors who are doing things in the genre. And it's been a lot of fun. This would be my second year, and I've just enjoyed myself. Last time I was excited to come back. This time I think it's a fantastic venue, and the conversations are really, really in depth and interesting.
Well, that should be fun. Yeah, I might have to actually go over there just because I want to see y'all.
That'd be awesome. That would be really awesome.
Yes, I would love that. So now you're going to be also in Williamsburg, Virginia, and you're going to also go to StokerCon in San
Yes.
Diego.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
Well, you know, the StokerCon's our industry, you know, it's our industry con. And that's the one that, you know, it's funny because I had a 26-year career as a project manager. So, you know, certifications, and it was an IT project management, no less. So, you know, really just formatted on these circular certifications and industry affiliations and things like that. So when I think about, you know, StokerCon and the Horror Writers Association, I just consider that part of doing business as an author, you know, that one specifically. And now that I'm the vice president of the association, I definitely have to be, certainly have to be at the con, right? But it's a wonderful time because you get together with people who are professionals in the organization doing something, been there for 20 years, just got there, you know, so you've got this wide range of people that you can help and learn from. It's a wonderful environment. So I'm excited to be back at StokerCon every year. The event in Williamsburg is AuthorCon, and it benefits Scares That Care. It's a nonprofit benefit for children or I think it's also adults as well. Now they've expanded it, who are in need, and it's just a horror community that comes together and, you know, donates to specific people who are in need. So I'm happy to be considered a guest of honor for that this year, and I look forward to hanging out and helping as I can. And the conversations, again, I can't tell you, the conversations when we get together, it's it's kind of awesome because me being on the psychological end of the spectrum, I mean, there are between 35 and 40 subgenres of horror. So I'm on the quiet end. You know, we've got visceral and extreme and splatterpunk on the other side. Indeed, RJ Joseph, your last guest, I mean, she's on the other spectrum of this from me. I mean, so, you know, we when we come together, the debates and discussions are so respectful and so interesting and so enlightening that I look forward to those kinds of things all the time.
Well, yeah, first of all, I love how humble you are because I didn't even get a chance to read everybody your accolades. There's a reason why you are invited places. There's a reason why you have a whole academy and why you're vice president of was it StokerCon. I mean, I'm just going to read off a few things. I'm looking at you are the recipient of the Golden Stake Award. You are, is it MICO?
I will say that Golden Stake Award. That's literally a gold, and it's blood on the end of it. I love this thing so much. First of all, let me just say, so I won it in London. I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm so sorry, but let me tell you one thing. That is awesome. I won this thing in London. Okay. Wow. And it was the 200th anniversary of Polidori's Dracula. So this is I couldn't believe it. Like, talk about just floor. They had to pick me up off the floor when they called my name. And I win it, and all these events are happening. It's great. And I said at some point in the night, probably holding a vial of like red colored liquid to mimic blood. It was like in a vial. This is how they served it. So it was so everything was perfect. And I said at some point, I'm like, you guys are sending me this, right? Because I can't get on the plane with that.
They would have arrested you.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's okay. It's okay. Okay, so now I'm gonna tell you where I got this 50 from. So, all right, so the Golden Stake Award, is it MICO or MICO?
MICO.
Okay, so you're a MICO Award-winning screenwriter, a two-time Bram Stoker Award finalist. Is it Rhysling?
Rhysling.
Okay, Rhysling nominated poet, accomplished essayist, and you've won. This is where I got the 50 from. You've won over 50 national and international screenplay and film awards.
Yes. Oh, okay. Yes.
So you did not come to play. Your short fiction has been published in groundbreaking works, including the anthologies The Psychorax's Daughters and Slay, Stories of the Vampire Noir. Oh, that sounds good.
Oh, it's excellent. Let me tell you, it is.
Oh, wow.
The work in there is terrifying and thought-provoking. It's really good.
Wow. Okay. And so you're also part of the 2022 Book Fest Book Award-winning poetry anthology Under Her Skin. And you've had papers. Now this is huge. You've had papers archived as part of the University of Pittsburgh's Horror Studies collection.
Yes.
So you say you've been writing for 45 years, but what you've done so much to impact the industry as well as the genre. And it sounds like you're not stopping anytime soon.
Oh, no. I will say this, that the fact that my papers, which I can't say without blushing, my whole face is hot. You can't see the hot, but if you can see my pink ears, it's terrible. But my papers, holy cow, being archived, because that's something you don't expect. You hear Langston Hughes is archived, of course. Maya Angelou's archived, of course. I didn't expect Elmarie Wood to get archived. I wasn't saying it couldn't happen. I just wasn't thinking of myself in the same space, if you will.
Right.
And it hits me every now and then. I keep getting like reminded of the impact, like you mentioned. It's not that I don't know how to phrase this. I guess I'm trying to say that when it happened, my jaw was on the floor. You could have knocked me over with a feather. Wow. I'm still in the same boat because I am an African-American woman writing in a genre that people used to tell me that Black people didn't read. We know that's not true, but that's what was said to me, right? You do not see us represented, Black women or men, represented in this genre widely. I am not an outliner. I'm a pantser. And if you're outside of any writing circle, which it's funny because you say these things at conventions and we get it, but then you say it in the world, and we're like, what? Like if you so in school, we're taught to outline our stories, outline our essays, like plan out what we're gonna do.
Yes.
Or not, right? I'm the or not. I don't write anything down. I say, oh, that's a great idea. And I start typing. I just start typing because that's what I do.
You let the story take you where it wants to go.
That's exactly right. And so, but to be credible, they say, right, you need to outline. I'm a pantser. And I got archived. I can't.
I just want to put a message out for those of you who are brand new authors. This lady has been writing for 45 years. She could be a pantser if she wants to. If you are a new author, don't just come in here going all kinds of ways talk about I'm a pantser too, because you just learned that word by watching the show tonight.
Right. Well, the thing about being a pantser is it can go south immediately. You got to have the control to realize you didn't do it right. The control you realize you messed it up. Then try to outline. There's a merge. We need to come up with a word for what the between is. I don't know what that would be. Pantser, outliner, I don't know what that would be. Come up with something good. But there can be an in-between. But there's not only one path, is what I'm saying.
Right.
And so for me to get archived, because archive means so many things. It means forever. My children can take their children and their children's children and find my work at this horror archive in Pennsylvania. That's what they can do. And it's a living library, which is beautiful. So people come in and they interact with your work and they can figure out how to ask me a question directly because I'm here. I still exist. So they can ask the question and we can have that interaction. They can learn. It's happened at least once already. And my whole archive isn't even in place yet. It's not like shown fully yet.
Wow.
And it's mind-blowing. So one thing I learned is to really I was already mindful of what I'm putting out in the world, and I'm really, really good about living in the moment. But there's a moment where you have to step back and go, holy cow. And so I think that every time I think about that archive, I step back and go, I cannot believe it. Because it's a dream come true, but it's a dream I didn't even know I was supposed to have. And it came true. And I'm floored by it. I'm in company like Linda Addison, Stephen King.
Yes.
Gabino Iglesias. I am in amazing company. And I never even thought about this for myself. So I'm excited by that.
Wow, wow. I could actually talk to you for another 30 minutes, but unfortunately, we are at the end of the show. I need to have you back on the show.
I'd be happy to.
Awesome. Let's make it happen. Maybe sometime next month, because if I would love, because you basically gave a master class tonight.
Oh my goodness.
Just talk, and you didn't even
My
realize
face
you
is so
did
hot,
it.
I can't even.
It's true. The way you talk about writing, and you know, the paths you take to writing your story, to talking about description, and to talking about the accolades that you've received for your writing just because you were doing what you loved. I think this is something that a lot of authors need to hear. And that's why I said I would love to have you back on the show, maybe sometime next month, and we can talk a bit more about this.
I'd love it. I'd love it. Let's do it.
Awesome, awesome. We will definitely be in touch. But for now, I have to thank you for being a part of the show tonight. Thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed talking with you. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. It was fun.
It was fun. Thank you so much. You have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So y'all, that does it for this week's edition of the Horizons Author Lounge. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope you got a lot out of these interviews. I know I did. We had two amazing authors who are doing great things in their genres, and I just hope that you realize that no matter what genre you want to move into, as long as you are moving with excellence, you are going to do well in that genre, and your talent will make room for you. So that's all we have for tonight. Make sure that you meet me tomorrow, Black Authors Matter TV. We will be talking with 4 authors tomorrow night. That's with Gwen Richardson. That show starts at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And then next weekend, we will be in Houston for the National Black Book Festival. So I hope to see you guys there. And then next Monday and Tuesday, we are taking that week off because it's Halloween. And we know a lot of you guys are going to be getting ready to take the kiddos trick-or-treating and so forth. So we will not be broadcasting Monday, and we will not be doing Black Authors Matter TV on Tuesday. So we'll give you guys a break, and then we're going to go right into the following week, picking it back up like we never left. So that's all we have for tonight, guys. God bless you. Thank you so much. Help me to keep this show growing. Continue to share the show. Continue sending amazing authors to me whom we can support and promote and give exposure to, because there's some people out there looking for new authors, and that's what this show is all about, to show you those new authors. So that's all I have, guys. I will see you all in 2 weeks. God bless you. Bye-bye.